Hello there.
Is Godzilla going to reach some kind of final form in the Monsterverse? What is Godzilla's next evolutions going to look like? Will he just keep growing in size? Will he eventually ever overload or overheat? We're going to discuss it all in this video, and I'm going to discuss what I think will end up happening to the Monsterverse Godzilla, who at this point is codenamed Zozlahawa, even though that lore was a little bit confusing for some fans. It seems like the new lore that we are going with in the Monsterverse, or at least the established lore for now, is that Zozlahawa is the Godzilla who ate a star, is the Titan who ate a star in the Monsterverse as explained, and apparently is potentially a winged Godzilla. So we're going to discuss it and make sense of it all in this video and what will end up happening to Godzilla in the Monsterverse. If you guys enjoy my content, consider subscribing. I have a bunch more stuff like this on my channel now, and let's get into
the Atomic Fair.
Alright, so up until this point, we have seen Godzilla go through a massive transformation in the Monsterverse while still retaining the features that do make him the iconic Monsterverse Godzilla, including the facial design, like kind of the general body design, and the more scaled looking dorsal plates that kind of blend in with his body. Other than that, a lot of liberties have been taken with the Monsterverse Godzilla design as he's grown and evolved over the films. Now, in the initial Godzilla 2014 movie, we kind of had a more streamlined look for the Monsterverse Godzilla before kind of evolving in Godzilla 2019 to have a more traditional classic Monsterverse Godzilla look. 2014 seemed to want to establish the idea of Godzilla being a real monster and potentially, I guess, a realistic take on Godzilla without going so far into the Tyrannosaurus route like Godzilla 98 did. But the new Monsterverse Godzilla, or at least since 2019, has adopted more of that classic Toho look with a bit more of a bulky build up until Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, where he of course absorbed a lot of energy from Tiamat and ended up evolving into the so-called evolved Godzilla, which has pink dorsal plates. He has pink energy. He emits kind of a pink energy and a pink energized glow, because before that we did have kind of the energized Godzilla, which is where he was kind of cracking with blue radiation before he of course became pink and absorbed Tiamat. And he of course has a pink beam, or a pink spiral ray, or I guess a pink radioactive beam, however you want to put it in that sense. Or when he became his evolved form, all of that became pink. He had a much more lean look to him, and almost a little bit odd compared to previous Monsterverse designs, only because of how, I don't want to say disproportionate he looked, but I guess we were just used to that thicker Godzilla. So when we saw a leaner Godzilla with almost looking like his rib cage is showing with a kind of tucked in gut, it was very interesting. I did enjoy the longer arms on the evolved Godzilla and kind of the thicker neck, but it kind of did make his head look a little smaller. I do think the peak Godzilla Monsterverse design is 2019 to 2021, when we had the new version of Fire Godzilla, or Burning Godzilla, appear in the Monsterverse. I think those were the peak Godzilla designs before kind of devolving into Godzilla Evolved. I don't think that design is quite as peak as the others, although it is very unique and very cool, especially with the spikes on the back of his elbows. But going into Godzilla 2027, or the 2027 Godzilla X Kong 3 film, we're going to get that traditional Godzilla bulk back with a more streamlined look kind of mixed in there. He's going to retain some of the evolved elements, and this is according to the current leaks we have for the film. Of course, things are subject to change before 2027, and if that changes, I'll be right here to report on it. But I'm assuming we're going the white dorsal plate look, considering each film kind of tries to take from different versions of Godzilla, and I could kind of see the pink evolved Godzilla sort of having a healing phase and settling into a white dorsal plate. And that is what the leaks say. They said that his dorsal plates are going to appear a bit more traditional, not quite as spiked and exposed looking as the evolved Godzilla, but not quite as, I guess, covered and texturized as the old 2019 Godzilla. And he's going to retain some of that bulk. So perhaps this version of Godzilla will be more black, more of a darker color, more of the traditional Godzilla color we're used to, with the white sort of spiky dorsal plates. But if Godzilla continues to evolve, because we're going to assume that he's going to gain once again a bit more size in Godzilla Kong 3, if he continues to evolve, he's just going to get larger and larger. And this isn't probably going to get to the point like Godzilla Earth where he's quite that large, but I could see getting to either an oversized Godzilla or just to the point where he starts to overload or melt down. The Monsterverse is kind of like the MCU, where it takes inspiration from certain elements of classic Godzilla lore while taking a new spin on it. And I think at some point either Godzilla will get to an oversized oversized state where his heart could potentially begin to fail, or he gets to an over-radiated state where he begins to either melt down or potentially just wither away and burn away. I think we're going to see that adapted because that is a classic Godzilla story from the greatest Godzilla series of all time, and that is the Heisei era of Godzilla movies. The storyline in Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, even to this day, where the effects are dated, the man in the suit is dated, all of that is dated, it still holds enough ground that I actually feel emotion when I watch that Godzilla vs. Destoroyah film because of the way that Godzilla melts down and ultimately sacrifices himself before passing most of his power onto Godzilla Jr., causing Godzilla Jr. to grow into a very similar Godzilla at the end of the movie, looking like the Toho classic Godzilla in the Heisei era, while also retaining more of the Godzilla Jr. elements where his skin is green and the dorsal plates are a bit different looking. But like I said, in Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, we see the best Godzilla story arc of all time, and it was already hinted at by Adam Wingard as where he wants to take the MonsterVerse, and things change from director to director, but really I could really see them going for that in the next few films, where Godzilla ultimately sacrifices himself or dies due to an overexposure to radiation, facing off against Ozawa. Maybe he even gets wings at some point, like that Godzilla vs. Kong scrapped concept art where we were going to see a winged Godzilla mural painted in a cave. We could actually see Godzilla evolve into Zozohawa, maybe hell, and I'm really spitballing here, but maybe he even becomes a villain for a movie and actually goes full on overboard before realizing he's become too powerful and sacrificing himself before we move on to Godzilla Jr. That could either be the end of the MonsterVerse, or considering the fact that this is Hollywood and they like to milk everything to death, if that's an ultimately successful move, they would move into Godzilla Jr. and start telling new stories with that character grown up into the new Godzilla, kind of like we're about to see with Black Panther over in the MCU. But yeah, comment down below, let me know what you guys think. If they stick to the lore of the established Godzilla lore, yeah, we'll probably see a Godzilla who becomes overgrown or over-radiated kind of begin to melt down and die before some kind of big sacrifice in a MonsterVerse film. I really see that coming, guys. I really see that being built up, and we'll have to see over the next decade. But remember this video, remember this moment, and come back here and let me know if I was right or wrong. But yeah, considering Godzilla is this so-called balance of nature, I can see him being sacrificed, and then Kong continuing the MonsterVerse with a Godzilla Jr. who now becomes the new mainline Godzilla. Or they just say, we're going to end it and reboot the MonsterVerse altogether, something like that. But let me know what you guys think about the idea of Godzilla ultimately dying due to overexposure of radiation or just growing to a point where his heart can no longer keep up. Comment down below what you guys think about all that stuff. And for this video, that is all I got. So until the next one, be safe and stay well. Bye-bye.